Hi, John.
Cameron, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It needs working. All right. Never mind.
Nice jersey in the background there, bud.
I know. We just literally got it hung up, especially for this.
When I just got off a golf simulator, I just got off a golf simulator, and I had to rush off. The guy was saying to me, he said, "We're not going to get lunch." I went, "No." He said, "Why?" I said, "I've got to do something." I said, "For the internet." He said, "£250 for a golf simulator." I'll see you later.
Like one of those big, like the whole room sort of things.
Yeah, it's a massive room. You get to play, and you have to putt and everything. It's one of those. I don't know how much it would be in euros and stuff and pounds, but it's was it 25 or 30 million Icelandic krona? So you're looking at probably about 150,000, 250,000 euros.
Wow. So you're out in Iceland now then?
I'm out in Reykjavik. I've been out here since Christ, when did I get back? January the 10th or the 7th or something.
Right. So do you live over there then, or is it you actually live there now? Have you lived there since you moved over to start your coaching now?
I lived there 2008 until 2014. Then I left and I had a year in Ireland. A friend of mine wanted me to help him with his university program in UCC. So I went home and I helped him with that. Then I shagged off to India to work for Liverpool in the International Academy and a professional club called DSK Shivajians.
Oh yeah, I did read about that actually. Yeah.
And that was great. And the only reason we're not going now, are we?
Yeah, we may as well.
All right. But some of this,
we'll come back around on other stuff, I'm sure.
Lovely. The club went bankrupt, and I saw it. You know, we hadn't been paid in 9 months. I think we got a half salary in 9 months, and I just said, "Look, you know what?" I said, "I can't do this anymore." So I just left. I said, you know, we picked up a couple of quid from the owner and left. And a lot of the coaches that kind of stayed there and tried to stay loyal to it ended up, you know, not a penny, and the club went bankrupt and they're out of business now. And I think somebody's in jail. One of the, I don't, you know, again, don't quote me on that, but so I came back, and then from nowhere, I was just bored. I was back in Ireland, just kind of hanging out. And a buddy of mine said, "Would you like to come in and coach for another year in Iceland? We need someone for a year." I goes, "Grand." So we ended up winning a league, and then I ended up down here, which is a massive club. So I'm tasked now with getting these back up to the Premier League, you know, because they dropped out of the Premier League. They were together with another club, you know, about 30 years, HK, and they split last year and had to drop out of the league. And then they brought me in last year. Then we more or less were building a brand new club from scratch. Over 30 years of history now has been wiped, and we're building a brand new club. So we're, you know, that's what they've kind of brought me in to do. Like,
all right, well, like I said, it's all very, very interesting stuff, and that's why I wanted to speak to you, because it seems like one of the things that's fascinated me the most since I started looking into this sort of stuff is how people go from being in Ireland and the UK to then moving over to somewhere like Iceland, which is so, you know, it's so remote, and people don't realize how remote it is from the rest of the world, and it's so out there. So how do you go from coaching out in Ireland to where you are now?
I did it even the worst, Cameron. I did it even the worst. I did it an even longer route. I took the route to the States. I was playing it. I did 4 years at Coventry and 3 years at Mansfield. And I decided then, I said, you know, I need a break from football. I'm not in love with it, and I couldn't even watch football on the telly. So I went home to Ireland, and I'd always promised my parents, I think it's the A levels in England, but it's the leaving cert in Ireland. I always promised them I'd get my education. So I went home, and I went to school as a mature student, and I started running a bar, and totally left the football life behind me, and wasn't sad to do it. And I was out watching Cork City one day, and my mother was sitting next to me, and she had been talking to the manager, and somebody did something. What was his name? Anthony Buckley, if I can't. So, and I know Anthony, so thank you very much, Anthony. And he did something that you know, because my head was in my phone, and I kind of looked up and I saw it, and I screamed at him. And my mother texted a friend of mine to text the manager and say he'll be at training Monday. And from there, I had a couple of years in Ireland. About a year, just over a year, maybe 16 months or something. And then I just fell in love with education again. So I went across to America to study. And that's how I got into Iceland.
It seems like a long route.
It was, well, again, I kind of said to myself, I know it's not too cliche-ish, but it's kind of cliches. I went with a couple of friends of mine to watch Rocky Balboa in 2006 or 2007, was it, when that came out? And he said he was talking about stuff in the basement, the stuff in the basement. And we were just starting to go and try and defend the national championship in 2007. And we won it. And there was a guy called Gareth O'Sullivan there, and Gareth was coaching in Iceland. He had a huge career in America as a college coach. And he had just he had a club here in Iceland. And he just said, look, he goes, do you fancy coming over? And I was walking past my boss's office, and all I heard was, Andrews. Oh, Jesus, he's crazy. You don't want him. So I went on the phone. I said, how's it going? He said, yeah, it's Gareth. He said, this, and this. I said, okay, I'll be there in January. And that was it.
Oh. But you obviously, like, I'm going to look into yourself. You started out as a player yourself, and you obviously moved into coaching. What was life like for you as an actual footballer out in there? Because I know you started at Coventry and you moved to Ireland a few times. What was that like for your career there?
I'd be honest, I can admit it now, and people, because I was doing the pro license with some really big names, people like Robbie Keane and Damien Duff, and they couldn't get their heads around this because these guys are superstars and brilliant professionals. Andy Reid, Keith Andrews, all these guys. But I can admit it now that I'm in my 40s and that I'm I'm a bit more mature. I never really enjoyed, after England, I never really enjoyed the playing side of it. It hurt. My body was sore. I never felt fulfilled with it. But I'd always known since I was a young kid, always, that I'd wanted to coach. I'd see managers and I'd see the way they were. So even from a young age, I was kind of saying to myself, as you can probably tell, I'm all right talking. I always knew that was a strength in my game, and I always knew I wanted to learn the game, and I just found playing a way to get into coaching, if that makes any sense. I really like playing in England is the pinnacle, and it's absolutely, it's fantastic. I have to tell you, life over there was just, it's not saying it's a different world, but you're so secluded from, not real life, but you're so secluded from anything that could not hurt you, but that it's just football. And it was great for me because I got to learn the game, especially from people like Gordon Strachan, Ron Atkinson, and there was a guy called Alec Miller. I think he won the Champions League with Benitez. He was the assistant manager at Liverpool. He was our assistant manager for 16 months. A genius of a man, So you really got to learn the game and the ins and outs of the game. And then we had people like Gary McAllister, Dion Dublin, top pros. Roland Nielsen, you remember him, the Swedish international,
yes,
right back? Oh, what the only player I've ever seen to have gigs in his pocket. And we would play reserve games with these guys, and they would just, these little nuances of the game, and he would tell you how to do it. It was just an education. It was brilliant.
So because a lot of people that I've spoken to, especially, they take that moving from playing to coaching is usually quite a hard step.
No,
because it's like they're leaving one life behind and starting a new one almost. So you didn't have that at all.
Well, no, as I said, because I had left professional football, and I had no problem leaving professional football. And you know what? To this day, unfortunately my father passed away 3 weeks ago. But he would always say, "Don't worry, I won't worry about Johnny. He'll always make a crust." I've got other qualifications. And even in the COVID lockdown, I'm now a certified yoga instructor. I've got the pro license. I've got the UEFA Elite A youth license. What else? There's a nutritional. I'm just finishing a nutritional massive nutritional course. And it's just, I'm a musician when I need to be. When I go home to Ireland, that's kind of my guilty pleasure. When I go home to Ireland, the bars were open, myself and my buddy playing the bars, and it's my father never worried about me with that. So football for me is, I'm just, do you know the cliche of being lucky to be doing something that you love?
Yeah.
Like, I'm double lucky because I don't have the pressure of going, I have to stay in this job. I have to do this. I'm doing this and I'm doing it on my own terms, and I'm absolutely loving every minute of it.
How hard is it to get into coaching? Because it seems like a lot of the time people talk about, a lot of people can be lucky because they know somebody, but when you actually have to work from nothing and you have to get all your badges together, it seems like quite a sort of hard task.
Yeah, and it is. And you know what? And this is going to surprise you, Cameron. I wish it was harder.
Right.
I still think it's a bit too easy to go through your licenses. I think it should be even harder.
How long does it take?
Well, Jesus, well, this is funny. You should say this. I think Niall O'Regan, the head of coach education in the FAI, and Niall is a genius. You know, he's totally revamped the coach education system in Ireland, and I can't put him over enough. He's an absolutely top guy. Niall was saying that there's something either with UEFA or FIFA, because of the length of time you've got to take to study the game and, you know, to go through your badges, that people with the pro license are now they're trying to have them as doctors of football, you know, like a doctorate, because it takes that long. So I started coaching in, oh goodness, was it 2004 down at Cove Ramblers with Dave Hill, and he'd give me a session here and there, you know, just to do a little bit here and there to kind of dip my fit in. And then I went to America, and as I said, I went on the women's side with a national championship winning team at Martin Methodist. So I've been doing this for close on 20 years now, and I only just got my pro license.
Wow. It's like that on its own, it seems like it's obviously you hear about how long it should take, and like I said, it's taking longer than 20 years seems mental, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, but let's call a spade here. I didn't start. I was a 4-year senior manager in the top level in Iceland here before I ever took a B license. You know, I transitioned straight from playing into player coach. So I was coaching the women's team and playing for the men's team.
All right, okay.
There was no problem with me with transition, but then it was what happens, and this is why I think it should be a little bit harder for people. And plus, I think when things are difficult, that brings out the real leaders, and it brings out the people that work hard. So, but why I think it should be a bit harder is that the B license teaches you, the A license teaches you, the pro license teaches you all these lovely good habits on how to be a better manager, how to be a better coach, how to be a better person, how to put on better sessions. And you might have had good managers in the past, and you might go, that's a great session that I love having and I love doing, but you don't know the why behind it, you know, and you have to have that why. There has to be a reason to your sessions. There's a guy running the Liverpool International Academy out in Kunyang, is it, in China? Kunming, I can't say it properly, sorry. Dan Rees. And Dan came in to be my assistant last year because he was locked out of China. And I was almost on autopilot last year because, you know, you get into autopilot because you know your field sizes, you know the reason. And he would every day, and he would murder me. John, why are you doing this? Well, we're doing this, why? And I totally had to revisit going back to B license, going back to A license, I had to revisit everything so I could answer his questions, you know, and have a why behind the what. It was brilliant. It was one of the best educations I've ever had.
And obviously, you've mentioned your transition to coaching. What then, like, there's the secondary transition where you've gone to Iceland.
Yeah.
What was it like originally for you the first time you've gone there because I assume that you went there for the purpose of coaching.
No, well, I went there to kind of develop as a coach. I was the assistant coach with the women's team.
Yeah.
And to play for the men's team. I wanted to, like that Rocky movie said, there was still something left in the basement. There was something left in the bottom. And I was like, do you know what? I don't want to get to 35 or 34 and not have, you know, gotten rid of all the juice. And I just went, you know what? Let's go and have a go at it. And we were relatively successful with that club. It was that secondary transition was okay. There was no real problem in it. It was. It's kind of weird to say. Do you know? I'll tell you going to Iceland. Can I tell you a funny story?
Go ahead. Yeah.
This is a classic. Now, you know, have you lived in America or you've been to America, Cameron?
Yeah. When I was younger. Yeah.
We were down in the southern states. I was in Tennessee, so it's very yes sir, no ma'am. You know, yes sir, yes ma'am. Brilliant, like really polite people and the salt of the earth. So I get to Iceland, and you couldn't even swear on the soccer field in America. Oh, you get a booking or a yellow card. So I got to Iceland, and I was Johnny Foreigner, you know. So I ex Coventry player. I thought you know. So there's snow, if you can see my hands here, up on the side of the field, maybe 8 feet high, but the field is green because it's heated. Right. So we come out, and it's, you know, it's freezing, but the field is heated. And I'm going, oh, this is nice. So I'm a centre back, if you can picture it. And the ball comes across onto my right foot, and I'm looking up, and I'm here. And a guy called Arnar Gauti Oskarsson must have ran from about 20 meters away and smashed into me. Well, my head goes into the snow, so I'm stuck, right? And I can't get out. So I'm trying to dig myself out. And I get up and I'm not going to swear, of course, but there was a few expletives given. And I said, what the hell are you doing? And he just went, and he wouldn't say it in English either. He said, welcome to Iceland, and just jogged off.
Amazing.
And I thought, man, this is back to real football. And I think I fell in love with the country just there and then. I just went, oh, this is amazing.
You mentioned it there as well. Was there never an issue with the language barrier? Because there's always been the idea that Icelandics and Nordics are all very, very good at English,
They're amazing at English, and I could tell you a story, but I can't tell you, not on here. It's one of the, and there's nothing bad in it. It's just that if it got out, if that kind of wording got out, I get in the height of trouble. But it's and anyone who sees this from Iceland will know exactly, because it's gone around Iceland, this story has.
Right.
So I'll tell it to you in private at one of these.
Yeah, it's fine.
Cracker, it's an absolute cracker. No, for the first, I'll tell you how it was. The first 2 years, it was like, oh, foreigner, isn't he lovely? The second, they're 6.5 years. The second 2 years, the people, they would expect you to at least try, at least have a little bit of a grasp of the language, and at least make an effort, at least do so. And the last 2.5 years, it was almost as if, look, man, you've been here now for 4.5, 5 years. You need to at least try and start the conversation in Icelandic, and then we'll go back to English with you, if you're struggling. But at least, and I found that fantastic, because it pushed me into learning the language, because you couldn't get out. So then when I came back the second time, I can tell you this one, an ex-girlfriend, I can't say that word either. These are good stories. It was the same day Iceland qualified. I think they beat Kosovo to go to the World Cup.
Right.
In 2017, it's a guy come up to me from one of the TV stations. I was sitting and having lunch or having a drink at a bar or something like that, before I flew up to the club I was going to be coaching with. And he said, oh, will you do an interview? I said, of course I will, but I'm going to do it in Icelandic. And I've been away from the country for 4 years. So I did it in Icelandic, and my ex-girlfriend immediately rang me up. She had seen it, and she immediately rang me up, and she goes, never speak Icelandic again. I said, why? She goes, I don't know, I was dating an absolute idiot. She sounded like a moron. But one of the things that happened, I've done this at a couple of clubs. I took one of the really younger age boys or girls teams, Then the kids would teach you like baby Icelandic. So easy Icelandic. But the horrible thing was, it's called Fimtaflokkar, which is the fifth flocker. They'd be around about 10 or 11 years of age. And I took them in a place called Húsavík, a club called Vikingur. And these boys their English was almost nothing. So I had to learn quickly again, relearn the language quickly. So it came to the following August, and I was like, all right, boys, I'm speaking Icelandic. And the lads would come up to me and go, no, John, hi, how are you? I'd say, hey, Icelandic. No, we're learning English in school now, and our teacher said to speak English. Yeah, I was like, oh, I was gutted. But no, I've got a fair grasp of it. I'm doing all right. Yeah, I have fairly good conversations in Icelandic, and everybody here has really good English.
Yeah, you sort of brushed across it there. You mentioned while the qualification for the World Cup was going on in 2017. Obviously, the reason that most people know around the world about Icelandic football is because of 2016 now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were in Iceland at the time.
We're 2016.
Yeah.
No, I was in India.
Oh, right, because I just wanted to talk about the culture, really, because people were sort of, they were immersed in this amazing sort of fan base of football from a rock, essentially.
You remember back in the mid 1980s, Jack Charlton took over the Irish soccer team, right? And we weren't great. And Jack, he was criticised for his tactics and stuff like that and his style of play, but he did more for the Irish tourism than anybody ever did, because the fans got to travel abroad and they started to show Europe and the world our Irish culture and how much fun we were, and it opened Ireland to the world. And then the Celtic Tiger happened. I'm not saying Jack was responsible for it, but and I was a young kid at that stage and buying into football. That passionate, energetic style of football. Some of it wasn't very pretty, but it was very passionate and very, very energetic. Well, the Icelandics are almost the exact same, and they took their culture. And this is, I'll go off on a bit of a tangent if you don't mind. I sometimes find coaches, when they come to a different country, they bring their culture to the country. And you say, okay, maybe that's the right way. I've found in the last however many 20 years I've been coaching that I like to find out what the culture is in the place. Like what makes these people tick? What makes them get out of bed in the morning? And then build my tactics and my strategies or my personality around that, so you at least respect the culture of the country. When you look at the Icelandic culture, they're hard-working, tough Viking peoples, they're really, really strong-minded, really fit, really, they're amazing people. And they put that into their football. They also put that into their lifestyle. They're a great people. So when this World Cup and the European Championships were going on, this place was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
I can only imagine, yeah. And it's one of the things that I guess comes across from Iceland is that sort of passion behind it. And again, it's the Viking clap and all the stereotypical things that the people talk about. But what is it actually like at a club level from your experience? What the fans like around that? In terms of how they, in their support and what you've seen from the UK and India.
I think we have the best fans. Our men's team, the women's side, we're still, as I said, we're building it up. So we have passionate people around the women's side. And you couldn't get to see that last night. We tied a game 2-2 last night, and there was about 200 people here, and they were riotous. They were brilliant. But our men's fans, I think, are the best in the country. Even though Charlton, the team with all the celebrations.
Yes, yeah.
They got a lot of, and they're a brilliant club as well. They're a fantastic club. But I think our fans here in Vikingur and Fossvogur, I think they're the best in the country, because they're football people. It's a football town. So when we were allowed, this place, the standout here would be packed every single game, packed. And they're always, it's kind of like they're behind the team. There's never any of this rubbish where, oh, what the hell? It's, the kid makes a mistake. Okay, how can we help him? They're a brilliant set of fans here, I have to admit. So the Icelandic people are knowledgeable about the game, because they the way in Ireland or England, we might get Sky Sports, we might get 2-3 games a weekend. They have every game here, every game. And all of them are on TV, all of them are, shown. So and then the Icelandic football is shown, the women's football is shown, Bundesliga is shown, Serie A not so much, but it's shown. The Spanish football is all shown, French. You get an absolute plethora of football here. So it's great. It's great. So people, like the average man on the street, has a good knowledge of football in this country.
And you mentioned there, and one of the slides I wanted to come on to more was, you're coaching the women's side in Vikingur. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know if you'd be able to speak on it, but throughout the difference between women's football in England and Ireland, and I'm imagining, and I don't know what it's like in Nordic countries and Iceland, but it seems like it's a lot stronger game there, because they seem to promote it a lot more. It seems to, I don't know if this is true from what you've experienced, but it just seems like it's far more accepted than at home here.
Well, I think that's changing. I think it's changing an awful lot, especially in England and in let's just say Scotland's a good league as well. I'm not sure what the Welsh league on the female side is like. I haven't done too much research into it. The Irish league is growing a little bit. The Irish league is getting there. But I think that's like, you look at Man United now. Man United have two of the best players in the world. Chelsea have some of the best players in the world. Man City have some of the best players in the world. So there's a lot of great players now coming into the English game. Arsenal, of course. Jesus, Arsenal have got a fantastic side. And a lot of our players like Denise O'Sullivan, Rihanna Jarrett, and all these girls, they're all gone. They all went to England, and obviously Denise has gone back to the States. But up here, I just think it's kind of different, because kids here are training 3-4 times a week from the age of 6.
Oh.
And it's like an academy structure without being an academy structure. There's always, and the really cool thing about Icelandic football, which I hope the British and the Irish clubs could maybe have a little look in, and how maybe it's not the right way to do it, by the way. So I'm not saying they should take the model. There's always somewhere for kids to go here. So if you don't make it at this club, you might go to this club. If you don't, there's no like, well, you're not that good. Off you go. You're into the non-league or something like that. There's a lot of teams. There's only 360,000 people here, and I think 60 professional teams.
Yeah,
and all the coaches get paid. So there's a real what's that word? Incentive to come to work, and I think that helps the kids. Like a lot of our coaches in under 10s, 11s, and 12s are A licensed coaches and B licensed coaches.
And but it's like you said, the teams to the population is huge. There's I saw that map a few weeks ago, the one at Reykjavik, and it's how many teams were there just within the one city? There's
I think there could be anything up north of 20.
Which is
really
ridiculous.
Yeah. Really
especially considering the population. So it just does come across when you look into it, the passion for football in the country is huge.
Well, necessity is the mother of invention, Cameron. And if you don't have that much, like the handball culture here is huge. Weightlifting culture here is huge. So this is something I admire about this place, is that there's no complaining that the weather is horrible. They just build brand new indoor they call them football houses here. It's like a football stadium indoors. So they go, right, well, that's that problem solved. And there's no grass on the fields from October all the way through till March. Okay, we play on AstroTurf. A lot of the top clubs here. It's like they just saw it's when you have such a rough climate, you have to solve problems, and it's a great example of, you know what, this is awful here. Well, let's make the best of it, and it's a terrific example of that. A friend of mine, Thorlak Arnesen, I think he's the director of coaching in Hong Kong at the minute with the Hong Kong FA. He did a thing for me on the Icelandic mentality. I was doing something for the pro license, and he said that the Icelandic people enjoy being the underdog. When they went to the World Cup, they enjoyed playing against Argentina and England in the Euros and having 30% or 20% possession. Great. That means we just have to fight. And that's the mentality, I think, that maybe it might be a little lost in other parts of the world. You don't always have to be. I think France, even when they won the World Cup, I think they were 41% possession in the final, or 38%. There's different ways to win football games. And the Icelandic people, to go back to the original point, they just seem to go, right, well, here's the problem. We're not going to complain about it. Let's just solve it. Let's get on with it. And that's what I mean about coming into their culture. And being open-minded and learning a little bit. So when you go back to the women's game, there's always somewhere for players to go.
Yeah,
players, it's not like, well, it's just the girls over there. It's a very, very, I think the word is egalitarian. Is that the word? Like equal country. It's a very equal country. So the women get just what the men get, and you just go, great, boom, let's rock and roll.
And obviously, I want to speak about Vikingur a bit as well, because how long have you been there now?
I did 6.5 years, and then I'm just starting my 4th now. So 10 years out of the last 12, 13.
Yeah. So
Jesus, I'm mad.
But what's it like what's it actually like as a club? Because I know it's one of these teams that has a lot of branching out in other sports as well as that, and it just looks like a very massive community, team to me. I don't know if you'd concur that.
Yeah, it's huge. And we, like my office, I was offered an office next to the men's coach, and the men's coach has his, and I didn't want to do it. I went in with the handball coach and our director of youth, because it's just, you want company, and they're great guys. So we swap training plans, fitness programs, and all that kind of stuff. The club here is, as I said, it's, for me, I could be wrong on this, but I think they've got the best fans in the country, or we've got the best fans in the country. And it's a sports mad country, and then we're a sports mad town in a sports mad country. So it's kids like to be fit, kids like to be, eat well, and all this kind of stuff. So it just ties into really having a terrific club,
What are the leagues like over there then? Are they very competitive leagues? I know you're in the Division 2 of the women's. Is it all very, very tough games constantly all the time?
Yeah, it really is. And I suppose I've got enough experience in the country now that I can say something like this. When I was coaching at a previous club in the Premier League, when I was back in between 2008 and 2014, we would look into the old first division, and it was like the old players back home, the old female players back home, just turning up with a cigarette and hitting the ball with their toes, and we had no respect for those teams, and the teams that would come up would generally go straight back down. There was no. And I came back in 2017, and I was actually in the bottom division, to go to that club, and I was going, Jesus Christ, we're going to win this no problem. Like, these players are terrific. And we ended up in fourth, I think, or fifth. Now, we won it the next year by a country mile, but it's like the standard of the under league, what do they call it, the lower leagues here, because the trainers or the players are getting so much training and so much coaching and good coaching. The standards are getting much, much better, and the Premier League teams are having to push even harder now to stay above us. It's both men and women. Like, you look at some of the men's sides, our men's team has a game tonight against a team called Vikingur or something. They were nowhere they weren't even a club 5 years ago, and they just went promotion, and it's a terrific place to ply your trade. If I'd known the way it was, the same as if I'd known what Asia was like, I'm not sure I would have spent as much time in America. I'm not sure I would have spent as much time in Ireland. I think I would have came up to the Nordic countries or went out to Asia a little quicker, because it's just you just learn so much about yourself. It's a great standard. I can't speak highly enough of Icelandic football, both men and women.
I was going to say, you've touched on my next question there. It's, I look at someone like, was it Graham Potter, who is at Östersunds in Sweden? Yeah. And it seems to be happening a lot more recently. Would you say that one of the best ways to develop your career would be, especially when you're starting off, would be to go out there and experience it for that stage?
Get coaching, Cameron, and you got to be on the field. It's the same as playing. Players when they're in clubs, get out on loan if you're not playing with the first team. I was just about to say Mesterflocker. That's the way to say it in Icelandic. You kind of get mixed up every now and then. Get out on loan. Look at the amount of great players, Lampard, Beckham, all these great players that have went away and got games. There's nothing like your job being at stake for 3 points on a Saturday. There's nothing like it. And you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, well, I'll go and coach kids. Great. You'll earn a few quid and whatever. If you're a senior coach, you have to win. And then the next question is how you win. But if you're looking to become a better coach, I think, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but get on the coaching ladder, get to a club, get coaching, get on the field, get comfortable speaking to players, learn the game. You have to know the game, because I tell you, and especially the female players, this is something that's really, it's really impressed me on the female side since coming into it. And I've jumped in and out of both. I've been in the men's side and the female side quite a lot. Men's players are generally fairly, okay, we're going to do this, and this. And the lads will go, yeah, okay. The female players will more or less, more often than not say, hey, why are we doing this? And there's a lot of whys. There's a lot of why. You better have your answers ready. You better have your answers ready. Because if they pick up on you, they'll pick up on you. They're ruthless. And I absolutely love that side of the game here.
Do you think that exposure that the country got in 2016 maybe accelerated the growth of it within the country as well? Because it sounds like to me that there's a lot of the culture there has almost exploded since that.
I think it's always been a really good sporting culture. I just think you guys got to see it a bit more when we over here when it went worldwide. And again, and I have to put over the Icelandic supporters on that. When they went abroad, they were just like the Irish supporters, the Scottish, they went abroad, it was fun and it was enjoyable. And the team played like that. The team picks up on that. So I think the culture of the people, I think what they would do is they would transfer, it showed the world what was happening over here, because we had a great time. Even look, I was here in 2008, and then we had the crash in late 2008 coming into 2009, the economic crash. And I was getting text messages from friends of mine going, oh man, you're eating out of bins and you're eating out of. The Icelandic people were grand. It was just we would take 2 holidays instead of 4 every year. We were this country. They're tough people. They just survived. I just went, okay, how do we fix it? And you guys didn't get to see that.
Mm.
But we, I was in it. So I'd go home and, back to Ireland and see me family. And they'd be going, "Oh, you okay? Are you eating all right?" I'm fine. I'm grand. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
So what's it like then, I suppose, being a coach in Iceland compared to other countries in the world? What are the challenges that come with it? If someone new was coming into Iceland as a new coach from Ireland or the UK, what would you say is the things to watch out for there?
Being too I know everything, thinking that it's a small country, so they have small minds. You get that thought right out of your head. You come over here with an open mind, and you'll soon see that the conversations you have with people from every level, from under 10s or under 8s, like we have 5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s, right up to senior level. You're going to have some very intelligent people talking to you about the game. There's a lot of knowledge in this country, so don't think you're going to come over here and say, "Oh well, I'm from such and such a country, I'm going to teach these Icelandics." You better earn it, because they're knowledgeable people. And if you put the work in, and I think I'm lucky enough to say that I have, if you put the work in, you'll get your respect. Same as everywhere, I would think. But don't come over and think it's just going to be some jolly up and some easy ride, because the Icelandic work ethic is huge. So therefore, you have to work hard. You have to at least match that, because otherwise there's no point having you here. You might as well hire an Icelandic person.
Yeah, and obviously you spoke about the very beginning of the story of you when you first went over there and getting pushed into the snow. It's like, what are the unique experiences like in Iceland? Because you see all the pictures and the types of grounds they have there and the spectacular scenery around some of them. It's amazing. It's like, what are the best experiences you've had out there since you've gone?
Football wise, or
yeah, either or.
That's a brilliant question. I didn't expect that. The three teams I've coached out here, after Elding, Wolsinger and Vikingur, they're teams that I knew they were the right clubs to come to at that time in my life, and they've kind of reflected my personality of where I was, mentally and personally myself. So there's great times down in After Elding, because we were in the Premier League. We had great times here last year at Vikingur, but I go off football. I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong on this, Seljafoss, and it's about an hour and a half that way. I know you can't see it, but it's about an hour and a half down past Selfoss, maybe 2 hours past Selfoss, and it's a waterfall you can walk behind. And every time you go up, and you get drenched, but you go up and you walk around, and there's always what's it called, rainbows. Oh, it's just spectacular, and the water's drinkable. So you'll see people out there with their 2 liters, and they'd be sitting there. And it's just one of those throwbacks to when I was a kid back in Ireland. We'd eat grass, for God's sake. Now, if people would, "Oh, the dog peed on the grass, you can't eat that." That's why our immune systems were probably so strong. We would eat grass off, chewing away, drink water out of anything. There was no you have to clean the glass and hand sanitizers everywhere. Obviously with the COVID, but it was a different time. And there's still beautiful places around here like that. There's still places that will take, like, I never knew that, glaciers, they're blue. They're not white.
Oh.
They're blue. Like light blue, like absolutely sapphire blue. They are spectacular. And my ex-girlfriend, took me out there once. And you're driving, you drive up and you see little bits of snow here and there. Good. Then you get there and they're like crystal sapphire blue. They were absolutely spectacular. And then if you want something more commercial, there's a place in Husavik called GOC that's just opened up, which is like the natural version of the Blue Lagoon. And I think it's in the top 20 places in the world to visit. I think it was in the top 20 places in the world to visit last year. It's where they filmed that musical, that movie. What's his name? Will Ferrell.
Right.
Remember that, the Eurovision movie?
Yes. Oh God.
Yeah. I love it. That was filmed up in my local thing in Husavik, my local just outside where we were living, because it's a tiny town, 1,200, 1,500 people. But this GOC, this natural spring, it's like an infinity pool. Oh my God! If you ever get the chance to get there, it's spectacular.
And obviously, I mentioned the grounds. Where are the best? Some of the best that you've been to in Iceland?
I loved, again, you see, it's going to sound cliche, but I love the one we've got now. And the thing is, a guy called
It does look very good. I've seen the picture.
Like Keith Andrews hates it. You know, Keith Andrews, he was with the 21s with Stephen Kenny a couple of years ago, last year, I think. And
I'm a Blackburn fan, so I know Keith.
Yeah, Keith's great. Jesus, man, and how articulate, great speaker. And I had this on, I think, when I went back from one of the things, and he said, "What's that?" I said, "That's the club I'm just after signing for." He said, "We went there with the 21s." He said, "Oh my God, I hated that place." I think it's because Iceland beat Ireland 1-0, I think. I'm not sure, but he couldn't get over. He hated it, absolutely hated it. But I love it here. I think I love our stadium. It's just, but I've wanted to work here since 2009. My manager when I was a player was Ole Olaf, and he left the manager's job here and took over the like head of coaching job at Vikingur, and he was always trying to sign me. And it was 10 years later or whatever it was, 12 years later, I took the job here, and the first text message I got was from Ole saying, "Welcome home." It was just, I've always wanted to work here. But there's other places. Some of the lower league grounds are absolutely spectacular. There's a place called Hamar, again down in Credigetti, by Selfoss. But it's you know, you have your football pitch, but you're literally on the edge of a mountain. It's spectacular. No stand or anything, but people just sit on the mountain and you're just looking about the place and you're going, "Christ, oh my, this is amazing." Valor, of course. KR was always nice. I've got a good record when I go up to KR and play there. So I usually like the places that I win a lot. So yeah, KR, Vikingur, Valor. Yeah, there's some brilliant, and the national team stadium, of course, is lovely here. It's small, but it's absolutely, it's brilliant venue.
I've always had this thing in my mind as well about traveling across Iceland. Is it almost like the Scottish Highlands League, where you play one team one day and they'll be 6 hours away, and the next team, it'll be just down the street?
Yeah, there is elements of that. There's actually one road. It sounds primitive, but it's really not. There's one road that goes round the whole country. Now there's obviously little roads that are breaking off, but it's 22 hours, I think, or 22 and a half hours if you start and drive the whole country and bring it around. People have done it. You go off towards Hupton on the east side, or is it the west side? Jesus, I'm terrible at geography. Then you go up to the north, to Husavik and Akureyri, and then back down by Blundos and back into Reykjavik. Yeah, there's a lot of clubs around the Reykjavik area and the suburb, which means like all our clubs this year are within 20 minutes drive of which is great. But when I was in Husavik, every away game we had was 5.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was fun.
And then, is that all coaches as well around the river?
Yeah, there was a couple of times where I'd be able to put the odd flight in, and it's only a 40-minute flight or a 35-minute flight or something, but it's 5.5 hours on the bus, and that was that you learn very quickly how to put the headphones on and go to sleep in the bus. Well, especially on the female side, they have different music tastes. So we had, what was that bloody thing? What was that musical that came out for the kids? Oh God, what was it?
Wasn't The Greatest Showman, was it?
No, it was around Frozen, I think.
Oh.
Oh God, they loved it. All songs from it, and Mamma Mia. And I love ABBA, but God Almighty, you've got 16,
5 hours of it.
5.5 hours of kids singing the same songs. It's just like ding, ding, ding. You do an hour, but Christ Almighty. It was you got it. You learn to buy a good set of headphones and bring your pillow on the bus.
But in terms of the actual person, unless there's anything else you want to add, what else you've learned over there?
I'll chat away all day. If whatever questions you've got, I'll chat away.
The last thing I had was about the personal side of things for yourself. It's like you've gone, like you've mentioned, you've been all over the place, to America, to India, across the UK and Ireland, and what's your sort of next steps from here? Because you've been working for 20 years on these coaching badges and developing as a coach. It's like, where do you want to go from here?
Well, you know what? I had that discussion with Niall O'Regan on the pro license. Ireland haven't been to a major championships as a women's football team, and Iceland have been to one. I think we're going this time as well, and I want to go to a major championship. Before I leave the women's game, I want to get into the international side. And because of the fact I'm Irish, I'd love to do it with the Irish team. And I've such an affinity for the Icelandic players' culture and system. I would love to do it here. But I'd love to take a team to a major championship. So international football absolutely fascinates me. But I'd be open to that. My immediate plans are getting this club back to where it needs to be, which is in the Premier League. It's a club that shouldn't be in this league. So we have to really put the work in now. I want to get into the Champions League, and then we'll have when I finish that kind of, obviously if other things pop in, like Liverpool popped in India, you can't turn that kind of stuff down. So, but I want to create, like, I'm lucky enough at this club that they've asked me to kind of build the club. They've asked me to, put my stamp on it.
Yeah.
So I would like to make this club successful. I'd like to go into international football. While I'm because I'm only 42, while I'm relatively young and hungry, I know a lot of people go into international football in their mid-50s, maybe coming towards 60. I'd like to do it roundabout now where the energy is still there, because you go to a major tournament, you have to have that energy. You have to have, because it's a sustained period of time. You're probably, a minimum away a month with these players, and you're in each other's pockets. You better have some energy. You better have some energy stores. And I'd like to have that now. And then, I wouldn't mind, seeing then where I go from there. The men's game obviously fascinates me, I'd like to have a go off that, and see where that takes me. But I'm without looking too far into the future, I'm really, really happy at the minute.
Yeah.
The structure of this club is, they've allowed me to stamp my personality on the club, and the type of players we're bringing in are kind of my players. Players that have left have been done really well in other clubs, but they've found coaches that might suit them better, so like we're doing all right, and so my own personal goals would realistically just to go as high as I can for as long as I can before retirement comes. And I'm lucky I'm ginger, so I don't think I'm going to go too grey. So but before that kind of comes, I wouldn't mind just keep working. As my dad always said, he wouldn't worry about me. Like I said earlier, I'm a worker, and I love being in the office. I love doing things to the best of my ability. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing I got from that is, like, what type of a coach are you then? Because you've picked up all these things, and you said you've adapted to the Icelandic way a bit. So what is your style of coaching?
Well, I'm a lot better than I was when I first got into it. I don't know what kind of a coach I am. I really don't. I try and put my sessions on and because I'm not too far out of playing. I only stopped playing 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm still connected in with what players enjoy. And I know, but there has to be teaching. A small example. We got the option to rent an indoor hall because we have a 4G Astro turf out here, but we got the option once a week for the women's side to rent an hour and a half of an indoor hall. So what we've done on that is that we've just, because it's so bloody cold up until the middle of March, let's say April, we use that for our tactical sessions. So all our tactical sessions are done inside, so the players aren't cold and they're not, getting injured. And then we'll do our work outside in the cold. So all our tactics work is done in there. So I don't know what kind of a coach I am. You'd have, do you know what? Get one of the players, ask them.
Yeah.
Well, here's one. This happened the other day. This might explain it. I was in the job here. I took it in November of 19, I think. And one of the players, she's a very timid girl. I won't say her name because I don't want to embarrass her. But she was asked by one of her friends who was thinking of not playing anymore. She said, "What's he like?" Because he's got a bit of a reputation as a very intense guy and passionate about the game. And she said, "Well, I don't know about that, but he's only been in the job 2 days, and I know he cares about us. I know he cares about me." So maybe that's the type of coach I am, that I actually care about what I do.
Yeah, and it definitely comes across as well, because I think that you clearly show a strong passion of it, and to keep, like you said, to maintain that level of wanting to do something within one specific sport is, I imagine, quite hard. You got to question yourself sometimes.
I tell you what people can do, Cameron, which has done an awful lot of good for me. Read great books. And I'm not saying stop reading like autobiographies and stuff like that, but read great books, read all the great stuff that's out there, because you learn stuff about yourself. The Art of War by Sun Tzu, as I said, Thorlakar Arnason put it on to me, and I was on a flight from it was Dubai back to Manchester to fly to Cork, and I read it, and I look back over it every now and then, and it's full of coaching quotes, because you'll say, well, that you could put that into, and you learn so much like about yourself if you step outside that comfort zone. Because if if Klopp brings out a book, or if Mourinho brings out a book, or Tuchel brings out a book, and I read it, you can guarantee that every other bloody coach is after reading it as well. So there's no age then, you know, we're all learning the same thing. So you'd step outside the box a little bit and maybe have read a different book, read, I don't know, whatever book floats your boat, whatever turns your crank, I don't know. Read that kind of stuff and go and try different things, because the sessions and the football sessions are always there. What we do on the field, I'm telling you, it's not that different to what everybody else does, from the bottom of the leagues in England to the bottoms of the league in Ireland to the top of the league in Paris. It's not that different. Still, everyone does a rondo, everyone does a crossing and finishing drill, everyone does possession, everyone does 5v5 plus 2. Everybody does the same stuff. It's maybe how you put it across, or how you get people to believe what you're doing. Maybe, I don't know. You notice I say that a lot, because I might be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be wrong, and fine if I am. But it's step outside because football can burn you out very quickly if it's just football.
Yeah.
If it's just football, it'll burn you out fairly quickly, because you'll get very bored of talking and you'll go on autopilot. So have something outside the game.
And you see that in a lot of players, even in the top players, it happens. They burn themselves out to the point where it's not a passion anymore. And I guess that's what you look for, isn't it? Really, you look for people like yourself who are very passionate about it.
Yeah. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, coming to work every day, quit. And I'm serious about that. Quit. Don't do it, because there's no bigger failure. I don't care how many trophies you've got and there's no bigger failure than going into work every morning and hating it. Now obviously within reason, Jesus Almighty, if you're in a job to support your family and all that kind of, that's different. I'm on about football jobs, or jobs of certain I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for is, but jobs that, almost it's a privilege to be in this job. But if you hate it, get out of it. Go and do something you're passionate about. And I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by people who are passionate about football. I'm passionate about it myself, but I'm passionate about other things too. So I have, I've just bought a lovely new guitar, delicious new guitar, and I'm obsessed with that. So whenever I need some downtime off that, off you go. I'll just pick up the guitar and learn something new. It's football isn't the be all and end all, but while you're doing it, man, give it your best.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's good for everything in life, wouldn't it be? Same as your own job. If you're going to be an interviewer, be the best bloody interviewer you can be, and try your best and really, really go for it. Because what else are you going to do? Do it half-arsed? You're going to have to do it again then. Was it a wrestler? What's his name? Stone Cold Steve Austin. My brother will love now that I got him in. He said, my dad always told me to do my best, because otherwise you're going to have to waste time doing it again. You go, great stuff. Now, Jesus. And that's his words, not mine.
No, John.
Paraphrased, of course.
like you said, I'd happily sit here all day and speak to you. And I'd love to speak to you again sometime in the future, if that's possible, when you develop and things change and stuff. But it's a pleasure to speak to you, and I know I can tell how much you love your football, and it's always great to speak to people who do, no matter where in the world that is. And I'm happy that you're enjoying it out there.
Look, we're trying to sign players here, Cameron, and they're saying, oh, well, I don't know, COVID. Where this country has worked so hard, we're almost COVID free, I think. Leagues are all back on. We're back training. The restaurants and the bars and everything is opening up. Okay, you have to wear masks, and all that kind of stuff. Still opened up. The country is, and again, we go back to what we spoke about with the culture. There was a huge problem. There was another outbreak in August. How can we fix it? And if I know it's a small country, I know it's a small population, and it's internalized, but they've done the government here and the people in the country have done a smashing job of being disciplined, and we're reaping the rewards of it as regards being able to play football, being able to go out for a meal, being able to go to the shops, and it's just it's just indicative of their culture that we're one of the countries that are coming out of it. So you can't help but admire them, or us, I would say, hopefully, and then kind of go, right, well, let's get to work, because a lot of people around the world, as you well know, can't work.
Yeah,
so it's a
definitely.
privilege to be here. It's an honor to be able to get out on the football field.
And then, thanks so much for speaking to me and taking the time out of your golfing session to come and do it.
My absolute pleasure, mate. And anytime you want to check in.
Definitely. When's your next game?
We played last night against my old team, and I tell you, this is again Icelandic culture. I haven't coached for that team since 2014, but I always maintained a great relationship with them. And we got to the field, warm-ups and everything back in, and we went out, and both teams, both Vikingur and Afturelling, had organised a minute silence for my father. And you just
I saw you tweet about that. Yeah.
Oh, how nice is that? And I said to say thank you, because their assistant manager is probably my best friend in the country, Bjarki Mars Sverrisson, great coach too. And I texted him last night. I said, look, tell the club thank you very much. And his chairman texted me back and said, look, for a club legend, it was our honor and our pleasure to do it. And it was very, very touching, and it just shows the character of the people in this country. They're and they've taken me to their hearts. So, it's when you're grateful for what you do.
Yeah.
It's just, it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.